two people, same sunset. One is fully there, the other is already somewhere else. That gap, right there, is quietly deciding the fate of their relationship. The science behind savoring. There is a word for the act of stopping to smell the roses, and it is not poetry. It is called savoring, and psychologists have been measuring it rigorously for over 2 decades. Fred Bryant at Loyola University Chicago spent more than 20 years developing the Savoring Beliefs Inventory, a validated scale that measures how well a person can anticipate, enjoy, and reflect on positive experiences. His research, published in his 2007 book Savoring, A New Model of Positive Experience, established that the ability to savor is one of the most reliable predictors of sustained well-being ever documented. What does savoring actually look like? It looks like lingering over a good meal instead of eating while scrolling. It looks like noticing the specific quality of light on a Tuesday afternoon. It looks like replaying a funny conversation and smiling again. These are not trivial habits. A 2013 study in the Journal of Positive Psychology, led by Jordi Quaidbach at Harvard, found that people who actively savored positive moments reported significantly higher life satisfaction scores compared to people who neutralized or dampened those same moments. The sample covered over 200 participants tracked across multiple time points. And here is where the relationship science begins to get genuinely interesting. What happens when your partner savors? 2. Savoring turns out to be a 2-player game. Shelley Gable at the University of California, Santa Barbara has spent years studying what she calls capitalization, which is the act of sharing good news with a partner and receiving an enthusiastic, engaged response. In a 2006 study published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology, Gable and her colleagues tracked 180 couples and found that when a partner responded to good news with active and constructive engagement, rather than passive or dismissive responses, relationship satisfaction, intimacy, and commitment were all significantly higher over a 6-month follow-up period. In plain terms, it is not enough for one person in a couple to notice the beautiful thing. The other person has to be present enough to notice it too, and to care. This is the quiet mechanic behind some of the most stable long-term relationships I have come across in the research. When both partners are capable of stopping, noticing, and genuinely sharing a moment of appreciation, they are building what psychologists call a shared positive emotional database. Every small moment that is savored together becomes a resource the couple can draw on during harder times. John Gottman at the Gottman Institute in Seattle, after studying more than 3,000 couples since the 1980s, identified what he calls turning toward as one of the single strongest predictors of relationship longevity. Couples who stayed together for decades turned toward each other's bids for connection, including small invitations to notice something beautiful or funny or moving, at a rate of 86%. Couples who eventually divorced turned toward each other at a rate of only 33%. That gap is not about conflict resolution, it is about presence. The asymmetry problem. Here is the part that most people do not see coming. Savoring capacity is not evenly distributed. Some people are genuinely wired, through a combination of genetics and early experience, to dampen positive emotion. A 2019 study in the journal Emotion, led by June Gruber at the University of Colorado Boulder, found that individuals with lower hedonic capacity, meaning reduced ability to experience and sustain positive emotion, were significantly more likely to report relationship dissatisfaction even when their external circumstances were objectively favorable. So, what happens when one partner is a natural savorer and the other is a natural dampener? The savorer starts to feel unseen. They point to the sunset and get a shrug. They share good news and get a nod. Over time, according to Gable's research, the savorer stops sharing. They stop pointing. And the emotional distance that grows from that silence is not dramatic. It is just very, very quiet. I want you to think about someone in your life right now. When you share something that delighted you, what does their face do in the first 3 seconds? That response, right there, is data. Can you learn to savor? The answer, based on current evidence, is yes, and the mechanism is remarkably accessible. Sonia Lubomirsky at the University of California, Riverside has published multiple studies showing that intentional savoring practices, things as simple as spending 20 minutes writing about a positive experience in detail, or deliberately slowing down a pleasurable activity to extend it, measurably increase well-being scores within 2 to 4 weeks. Her 2005 paper in the Review of General Psychology, co-authored with Kenan Sheldon and David Schgade, remains one of the most cited frameworks in the positive psychology field, with over 6,000 citations as of 24. For couples specifically, a 2016 study at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, found that partners who practiced shared savoring rituals, meaning designated moments where they deliberately noticed and expressed appreciation for positive experiences together, reported a 20% increase in relationship satisfaction after just 8 weeks. The sample included 94 couples across a range of relationship lengths. The practice does not need to be elaborate. Researchers found that even a 3 to 5 minute daily ritual of each partner naming one specific moment they enjoyed that day, not a gratitude list, but a specific sensory, emotionally vivid moment, was enough to shift the relational dynamic measurably. The roses are already there. The only question is whether both people are stopping. Fred Bryant once said that the ability to savor is what separates people who have good lives from people who merely have good circumstances. I think the same is true of relationships. Something worth sitting with today.